Call the grant workshop to order. It's December 15th. We'll just go ahead, go right into the workshop, and we'll come back at the council meeting and do the prayer pledge and fact of the day.
Okay. All right. Well, Mayor and Commissioners, this is the grant workshop that we promised that we would bring back to you. So I want to kind of lay out kind of the workshop real quick first before we get into it. First of all, I guess I want to say I want to recognize the staff. Shakenya, she's here. Nicole, the fire department, both of the fire department, the police department, the public works department, public services department, the recreation department. All of the departments have been very instrumental in working very hard to obtain these grants. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of work, a lot of writing, a lot of, so it's just a lot of work to even get to step one. And so they have done a remarkable job. We have a new person on staff, Justin, as well. He works in the recreation department. He's actually done I've worked with some grants as well. So we have a good grant team, I think, now in the city that works very well together. And you'll be able to see as we go through some of this presentation, some of the hard work that the staff has done to obtain some of the grants that we've got. So I want to thank all of them first. They're here tonight too. Should you have any questions about a specific grant as we're moving through, a lot of them you've already seen. They've already been approved through the city council. But if you have any questions or whatever, further details of the grant, then we can go through those as well this evening. So let me start out first by saying I want to open up and I'm going to talk about the grants that are open or the grants that we currently have and are working through. I'm going to talk about, as you recall, in the budget, we applied for some grants for police and fire that consisted of personnel and equipment grants. So I will show you those grants. Unfortunately, those are the grants we were not awarded. But I will go through those and show you those as well. And then I'm going to talk about some new awarded grants, some grants that have newly been awarded to us. As I promised, I'm going to talk about the rescue dollars. So I have a slide, and we'll talk about some of that, so you can kind of see those dollars. And then Duke Energy dollars, they're in here too, and we'll go through each one of them, and you can see where some of those have already you've already appropriated some of those dollars and designated some of those lines, so we'll go through those. We'll talk about some pending grants that we have out there that we are still looking for and still moving forward every opportunity that we get. Anything that we can apply for, we're applying for. And then I have a slide, one slide on the infrastructure bill, very quickly to kind of just show you the amount of dollars in the different areas that are available. As you know, that is still being worked on. And we have been working with Congresswoman Demings to make sure that we get our projects in for those dollars as well, to make sure that we get to apply for everything that we can here in the city of Apopka. And then we'll end up with some questions and comments. So in fiscal year 21, we've been awarded these are awarded dollars we will receive. So we've received in FY21 about $5.2 million. And then already in FY22, which we are still in this fiscal year, we have received $12.7 million. So as we move through here, you'll be able to see those. But you can see that we have $18 million. So staff has been busy. On the public services side, the open grants that we're working with, as you know, are Golden Gym, Apopka West reuse storage pump station, and the storage facility. This was a 50% match grant, and continues to be a 50% match as we move through this project. So you can see here that almost $2.3 million we're receiving through St. John's River Water Management District for that storage project. On the recreation side, as you're aware, the Land and Water Conservation Fund awarded us $107,000. These for the improvements to our Alonzo Williams Park, the trail, the parking, pavilion, park benches. That was what this grant was for. And then the FERDAP grant, the $50,000 playground facilities grant, those are for the improvements of the playground that will be out at the Northwest, water fountains, and benches as well. So on the fire department, So those are some of the open grants we're currently working through that you've seen. In the fire department, some of the open grants that we have, as you know, the state fire marshal grant that we have received through the legislature, a little more than $1 million. Of course, we have our match for that $1 million, which is the $2 million that was budgeted for the construction of Fire Station 6. And then the Volunteer Florida CERT grant that we applied for, that was a $5,000 grant that the fire department's working through now, putting that CERT team together, which is a group of our volunteers, of our citizens. The grants that were not funded, so these are the Apopka grants that we applied for in the fire department that were not funded. And you have in your packet the actual emails and the actual information that we received back that we were not awarded these grants. The first one was the Assistant to the Firefighters grant, or the exhaust system. This was the system that we talked about for the safety or the removal of the exhaust systems for our vehicles and our stations. The SAFER grant was, if you recall, it's from the budget. We had 6 positions that were in our budget that we were hoping that we would receive the grant money for those 6 positions. Unfortunately, we did not. That request was 1.2, almost a little more than $1.2 million. Keep in mind, these dollars that you see for personnel staffing was for a 3-year period. So we had hoped to get the grant and that it would fund for a 3-year period. And then the fire prevention and safety was the educational trailer that we had hoped that we would get. This was the one where we were going to a regional grant, we were going to partner with some of the others in the area, our other jurisdictions to bring on an educational trailer. So those were the grants that we applied for in the fire department that were not funded. So, like we said at the budget, we'll see how that goes. If we don't get funded on those, then we'll come back to the city council and address those issues. So in this slide, what we have done, the 6 positions in the fire department, as you recall, there were 3 new district chiefs and 3 firefighters positions that were applied for. So what we have done here is we've recommended that we hire in March of 2022 those 6 positions. So this number that you see of 261, 150, that's a prorated portion of those salaries for that portion of to complete fiscal year 22. The equipment for those 6 firefighters will be about $45,000 we'll have to have for those positions. We'll need another district chief vehicle of about $50,000. And then the exhaust system, so you might ask, why is the exhaust system $250,000 on this slide, but on the grant slide, we only applied for $115,000 for the exhaust system? Well, after talking to the chief, there is a system where the actual apparatus goes on the exhaust system of the vehicle. And so the fire department would rather do this than put the exhaust system in. The grant would only let us put the exhaust system in. This is better technology that allows us to put, every vehicle will have this on it. So if you move it from station to station or moves around, it doesn't matter, it'll always have this on the vehicle. So that's an added cost. That's, instead of $115,000, it's $250,000 to do that to all of our vehicles. One of the things we also want to do here is new vehicles in the future that we purchase. We want this to be part of that cost of upfitting that vehicle as we buy those vehicles going forward. So it's about $10,000 per vehicle. So that's about $250,000. So a total request to fund these positions and this equipment is about $606,000 in fiscal year 22. On the police side, so the open grants on the police department side, as you are aware, because every one of these grants have come before you, they receive they have a lot of little grants. They add up, a total of $339,000 in grants that they've received, all the way from overtime for speed, aggressive driving, teen driver safety, the bulletproof vest grant. So as you can see, there's a lot of little grants that the police department's applied for, and we're currently open grants that we're working through. So again, back to the budget workshops, we applied to the COPS grant for 10 positions. We were hoping we would get funded for 10 positions. If you recall, in the budget, we budgeted the equipment of $200,000 for those 10 positions, so that is already in your current budget. And then we also budgeted the vehicles for those 10 positions of about $500,000. Those two amounts have already been appropriated. We were in hopes that we would get some grant for those 10 officer positions that we've applied for. We did not. You have the list. As I said, I would provide you the list of those agencies that did. You can see that Miami-Dade, Fort Pierce, Fort Myers were the ones that were awarded those grants. And then you can see there's all of the other states are in there as well for your information. So we did not get those, but what we are proposing here tonight, again, the workshop, we will not take any action on the workshop. These amendments will show in your meeting at 7 o'clock, if those are the wishes of the council. The total request that we're asking is $472,000. That will hire 5 of those positions in January, or fund to hire 5 of those positions in January. And then the other 5 we would hire and bring on in April. So the total spend is about $472,000 for those 10 positions hired in over that period of time, hiring 5 at one point and then 5 at another point.
So 5 in January and 5 in
April.
April. Okay.
So awarded grants. So we've talked about the grants that we've already have, that we've been awarded, or that we have and that are open. And then we talked about the 2 grants that we did not get that were in our public safety area. And so now we have some grants that we've applied for, or that we've been awarded, but have not executed all the way. But we are going to get these grants. You'll just see these come back, a couple of them come back to you. The $250,000, you've already seen that. That is our CDBG sidewalk project. That's our South Apopka Sidewalk project. That's phase 1. We have been awarded that $249,000. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection Land and Water Conservation Camp Weewall acquisition, we will be getting that $1 million, and we have our $1 million match. So that grant, we will be receiving that grant. And then the Camp Weewall Septic to Sewer, as Mayor mentioned a couple meetings ago, we were awarded that $250,000. We will have to have a $250,000 match, and I will show you that as we move through the workshop of those amounts. And then the RV Trailer Park Sewer Conversion Grant, the $5 million, it has a match as well. That match will come from those individuals that take advantage of this grant to connect their current sewer to our city sewer. The American Rescue Plan, so I told you I would bring this back to you as well. You have this several meetings ago. I gave you the packet that kind of explained how these dollars are to be used. I want you to keep in mind as we go through this, they continue to make changes. So I want to be very careful how we do this, because if they make changes and we have to refund or do something, I don't want to have to do that. So I feel confident what you're going to see before you, that you'll be good with those dollars, and I'll explain that as we move through there. But some of the areas you can use this for, you can use it to support public health. You can use it for premium pay for essential workers. You can use it for water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. And you can use it for lost public sector revenues. So as we get to the slide, I'll show you where we've allocated some of these dollars and give you some of the reasons why we feel that this is the appropriate way to spend these dollars. So we were awarded a little more than $7 million, as you know. We received 3.5. Currently, we have 3.5 sitting in our grant fund. If you recall from your FY22 budget approval hearings in September, we've already allocated $1 million of that 3.5 to road resurfacing. You're going to see that tonight in your city council meeting. We have that presentations come back on that pavement conditioning program, and DODAT will be giving you that, where he plans to spend those dollars based on that plan that we had prepared. The Yothers Road, as you know, Yothers is a road, is one of the worst roads in Apopka, condition-wise, and we've been patching it for a while, so we've proposing to use $1 million of this. DODAT's told us that this project's probably gonna be anywhere from $800 to $1 million, so we have elected to use some of these dollars, $1 million of these dollars, to help resurface and pave that road. The fire department extinguished the exhaust system that I talked about earlier, was $250,000. Also proposing to use some of these dollars for that system to our public safety vehicles. And then the Camp Weewaw septic to sewer conversion, we have to have a $250,000 match. So we are proposing to use $250,000 of these dollars. This is a sewer project, meets the definition. So most of these, we're confident in our lost revenue amount of, how we had a $3 million, little under $3 million lost revenue account in our sales tax revenue. So we're proposing to use $2.5 million of the $3.5 million. So that leaves $1 million in that fund that we will, keep in that fund and earmarked in that fund until we hear back from the Department of Treasury. I want to kind of be cautious just to make sure that if they do come back and they're saying they may come back and give us some different uses, different places we can use these dollars. So if they come back and give us some areas that we can use these dollars that may benefit us in some other areas, we'll be able to do that as well. So I think it's important to hold that. And then keep in mind, you have another $3.5 million that will be coming, and I think it's about a year from June. So next June, you should have another 3.5 coming to complete the $7 million that we were awarded. Again, and I want to point this out because I think it's very important, and I know Mayor's been very instrumental in working with our other elected officials and stuff and trying to get more dollars here. We feel like we were shortchanged here, the city of Apopka, so we're working really hard. City of Ocoee got about $24 million. Our population's not that much different than the city of Ocoee, and we feel like 724 there's a discrepancy there that we just feel like that we feel like we've been shortchanged a little bit. So we're still working really, really hard with them to try to work on seeing if we can get some additional funding there. So the Duke Energy dollars, if you recall, it's been a while, but these are the items that were at the last council meeting, or the council meeting when you approved to designate these dollars. These were all of the items that were listed. If you remember, we talked about paying off the tower truck, but we elected not to do that. So one of the things that we have done with those dollars were used to help with the purchase of Camp Weewaw. The bathroom and concession, the budget amendment, you've already approved that at one of your prior meetings. The Fran Carlton Storage Building, you approved that. It's already been appropriated for that project. The fire engine replacement for replacement 1, this was 50% of the funding in your budget. This was included in your budget, $300,000. So that's already been funded through the budget of 22. The drainage for the Border Lake, Lake Hammer, and Lake Page, those dollars are still designated. You have not seen a budget amendment for those. You will when the time comes to use those dollars as either our match with the partners that we're working with, but currently those are designated. They haven't been appropriated. The Conley property design, that is designated. It would come back to you. We will make a budget amendment for that. It'll come back to you when it's to be appropriated. The birding park improvements, there was a budget amendment that you approved at one of the council meetings for that project as well. The welcome signs and the resource center have both been designated, but they have not been, we have not done a budget amendment or appropriated those. We will bring you those in the future. So those will come back to you, and you'll have the opportunity to do those through the budget amendment at a future date. So as you can see, most of these dollars have been either earmarked or already appropriated. Pending grants, so kind of what's out there on the horizon. We have $2.5 million that we've been working. I know Nicole has worked really hard on this grant. This is to do more of the on-site project for those citizens that are going from the sewer, from the septic to the mini sewer plants that we've got. So we've applied for there's some funding out there. We've applied for it to see if they can help our citizens in those areas. That Wekiva Glen is a big one for more of those systems. The CDBG mitigation grant, $2.4 million. As you know, we've talked about pipe replacements, our sewer utility lines that need to be replaced, that some of the older lines. This is a grant we've applied for, a mitigation grant we've applied for, to be able to to get some dollars to change out some of those lines. Hopefully we're hoping we will be able to get these grants. And then the CDBG grant, the $850, that is for your sidewalks phase 2. So we have that in the works and hoping that we can get that grant as well to do the other sidewalk.
And you said these are
Project.
pending, so are these on top of the 18 million on page 1, or are these part of the 18 million?
These are not part of, these are on top of the 18 million. So these have not been, the dollars you saw, the 18 million, we're getting those dollars.
Got those.
These dollars we're still waiting to hear on. So I told you,
With these that you're waiting for, like, do you have an idea of the dates that they will at least try and notify you that you've got them? Or is it like an open date? Or
it's
is
an
it-
22, so we're hoping it could be in 22, so.
They don't give you like by May you'll know, or next September, or June?
Some of them are a little tough, they're open. We'll go back and look to see if there are some deadlines. I can get that information for you, Commissioner. But I think a lot of them are some of it's open. It's submit it, and then they'll let you know if you qualify for any of these grants. But we can get you close dates for these. I know that staff is anticipating an award date, if it's gonna come in 22. So that usually, we try to do it by our fiscal year, so we're hoping that we'll hear something by September 30th, but we can get the exact dates, so you'll have them for these if you want.
Okay.
But we continue to monitor these and hope we'll get these grants. And then keep in mind, when these grants do come, they'll come to City Council. There'll be agreements that have to be executed, so you'll see these when they are awarded. You'll have to have do an agreement. So the infrastructure bill, a lot of money in the infrastructure bill. As you know, the federal government is still working behind the scenes, and there's still a lot going on, but there's a lot of dollars in there. We want to make sure that we get our projects in there, our big projects. There's $73 billion for the electric grid. Broadband investments are $65 billion. Water systems and infrastructure, critical for us. I think that's an area where we, we'll definitely have some projects, $55 billion. The environmental remediation projects, $21 billion. Electric vehicles, there's $15 billion in electric vehicle earmarks. So, and then road safety, $11 billion. So this kind of shows you where some of those dollars are labeled, and staff is going to continue to work. We feel that we need to put in for everything that we can, that's on our 5-year plan and things that we can qualify for, and try to get some of these infrastructure dollars. As you know, our big project that we're doing, our reclaim project, is a very expensive project. We have some road projects that we're trying to do that these will hopefully qualify for, and so we will be working very closely with all of our partners to make sure that we get everything in that Apopka has that can qualify for these dollars. So with that, that's all I have. The staff is here to answer any questions you might have on any of the grants. Again, we can answer any, if you have any comments, we're open to those as well. There are budget amendments at your meeting at 7 o'clock that will take into account the items that I showed you that were not funded in your budget. We will have to fund them if the council wishes to do that. We will have to fund those through a budget amendment, and Vladimir has the budget amendment prepared to show you those items from that side.
Any questions?
So,
I know you talked about Yothers Road being a main road, one of the worst. I know we did a street assessment study. Is that available to us?
You're having
So
we're having that part of the council meeting.
yeah, they're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
do that. So at the council meeting at 7 o'clock,
Okay.
there's a presentation. Our consultant that we hired will be, unfortunately, he is going to be coming in or tuning in by Zoom, but he will be in by Zoom, and you'll get his presentation. He will give that. Dio will give you the roads and the actual, based on his experience and based on that study. He will lay out a 2-year plan for you based on that study and based on his review of the roads. You'll get to see, and Yalders Road is in there as well, so he will show you that. So you'll get to see all of that, and you'll get, from the study, you'll get to see everything and how they rated all of our roads. They rated every road, and they'll give you all the breakdown.
Mr. Bankson?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say thank you to all those that worked and staff to get this kind of resources through grant writing. I know that grant writing is tedious and tiresome and got to check all the right boxes and use the right words. So good job on that, and especially knowing on top of that, you've already got these others in the pipeline. That's great. One comment here, the infrastructure bill, we need to work just as hard to have our projects ready because this is going to create massive inflation of goods and services as well. So the cost of all these projects is going to increase as well. So the sooner we get in there, get first in line and get those jobs done, as the old phrase, shovel ready, the quicker that we can, we need to stay ahead of that curve because it's going to start ramping up. But just one question. So between the police and fire, the funds that you were saying we're needing, less the exhaust, because that's covered, if I've got my totals right, that's $828,200. Do these grants free up somewhere else in the budget to help us deal with this, or does this all need to come out directly from reserves?
This will actually come from, we're going to use carryover appropriation, Commissioner. We're doing the audit right now, and based on the audit numbers that we're seeing, and again, it's audit, so you'll get the official audit when it comes out, when they're finished. But we have some as you know, every year there's carryover appropriation from year to year. So I don't think we're not going to have to get into the reserves. If you recall, the last 2 years, our budgets have used reserves to balance the budget. So keeping that in mind, I think it's important that we not go into those reserves if we don't have to at this time, based on what we're seeing with the economy. I think the other thing that's important is, we talked about in our budget, we wanted to apply for these grants first and see if we could have an opportunity to receive some of these grant funds before we actually use our taxpayer dollars. And so we did not on those 2 areas. And so I think that's why having a healthy reserve is very important today, because we were able to do these items or take care of these 2 items in our current 22 budget. But we are seeing some carryover funding from our 21 budget that will be able to cover these additional $800,000.
So there's nowhere in this grant funding that paid for things that we would have had to, that is going to release then dollars that could be shifted over to cover that deficit?
Not in these grants the grants that you've seen before you, none of those are. As you recall, the exhaust system grant would have had to come from that $250,000 would have had to come from our general fund. Fortunately, we got the rescue monies. It's a public safety item, so I think that's good use of that money for the $250,000 for the exhaust system.
So it basically left $828,000 and change to
Correct.
cover. Okay.
And keep in mind, that's a prorated portion, as you saw, bringing them on in,
Right.
that when you see your budget in '23, that we will have the full impact. But for now, absolutely, that those dollars will come from the carryover appropriations.
Commissioner Smith?
Let me also commend the staff for an outstanding job in applying for grants and receiving them as well, and that you've done a great job, and so we commend you for your work. In reference to the American Rescue dollars, I do have some concern, and I know that we had mentioned that we wanted to spend these funds as much as possible in big chunks, but also I think it's important that we also invest some of these dollars back into the community as well. And I think I have a couple of items that would probably fit in those categories that were listed as to where these funds could be spent. And so I'd like for those items to be considered. One of those is to spend some additional dollars in our youth programs at the Billy Dean Community Center. So we could look at what other additional youth programs that we can invest in that area, and maybe set aside $50,000 to do that. The other thing is our nonprofits have really been hurt during the pandemic as well. because they were not able to have fundraisers as they would normally have in order to generate funds for the things that they do in our community. And so I'd like for us to consider setting aside another $50,000 for nonprofits and maybe allocating $2,000 as a one-time towards about 25 nonprofits if we have that many in our city. But those two, and then thirdly, I know that our residents also suffered as a part of the pandemic, and we had individuals that were not paying their city utility bills to the water department. So if we could set aside some funds to help maybe up to 200 households with outstanding utility bills to the city now, towards their water bills, up to $500 and maybe allocating $100,000 up to 200 households. And then for our small businesses, if we could provide a one-time grant for our small businesses, $6,000 for 15 businesses comes to about $90,000. And then lastly, our first responders during the pandemic, they really did an exceptional job responding to the health needs of our community and were overworked and putting themselves at risk as well as their families. And I think it would be appropriate if we could allocate $500 bonus for our first responders as a part of this CARES package. Those are the items that I would like for us to consider. And lastly, we know we have events that are put on by nonprofits throughout the community at different parks, what have you, and sometimes that requires policing. And so if there's some way we could do something for community policing for community events, those are items I would like for you to consider.
Okay, absolutely, Commissioner. We will take those and staff will go through those, and we'd have to come back to you at one of the meetings or council meetings or whatever for that, but we can bring that back to you, definitely. Back to the city council.
Okay, Commissioner Becker?
Yeah, so just to be clear, on the what you're going to be asking for during the council meeting, that's all coming out of appropriations?
Yes.
Carry forward?
Yes.
Definitively, period, end of sentence?
Yes.
Okay.
It will be coming up from your carry forward dollars from FY21, the year that you just completed.
So do we not have better reporting as we're entering the end of fiscal years to have like indication of what our carry forward appropriations are going to be? Meaning we could have had these positions already kind of posted, funded, and that sort of thing going forward. Why should we wait until now to understand that we've got a whole bunch of appropriations that we can kind of reallocate?
Well, Commissioner, currently you're under audit, so you're currently under audit. And you have to authorize the positions before we can advertise them, and you have to authorize and appropriate the position before we can advertise. We don't advertise anything in the city unless it's been authorized or appropriated by the city council. So we wanted to hear from the grants first. We didn't hear from the grants, so now we have come forward with this and said, this is where we'd like to make that opportunity.
What
Future-wise is something we could look at, so we could look in the future at saying, hey, the only thing is we just want to be careful doing that in case the auditors come back and make some big significant adjustment or whatever. So a small amount is not so bad, but in this case, I think we're okay. I'm confident we're okay.
Okay. What is our current unassigned reserve balance?
Currently, at your last audit, it was $14 million.
Like currently, like current state right now?
So currently, right now, I can't give you the exact number because they're continuing to make adjustments. The auditors are continuing to work and through the audit and testing, and they've made adjustments. We still have a couple more things to close out. But we can get into that number. It was $14 million in 20. In 21, we used a portion of the reserves of that $14 million. I think it was like $900,000 or a little more than that. So you'd have to subtract that from the $14 million. And then you would also have to take the current year, it was about $1.4 million that we used to balance the budget, and the FY22 budget that we're in. So you'd have to subtract those amounts from that number.
Yeah,
and
I
that
mean,
would give
I
you
would
that.
expect
Now,
that we would always, because we make a claim that our reserve balance is very healthy right now, but yet whenever I ask that question, no one can give me a specific answer about what that unassigned balance is currently. I would expect that staff, that would be kind of one of these things that's, okay, I can tell you to the decimal place what it is.
Well, and I can tell you, it's sitting right now at 14 million. Currently, as of FY '20, it's sitting at 14 million is the unassigned, which represents a little more than.
That's FY '20.
Which it's FY '20. 21's still under audit, so I can't give you that exact number, and I'm not gonna stand here and give you that number when I know it's under audit. I don't wanna give you what I think exactly that number will be. I can give you an approximation based on the budget,
Right,
that it was
good.
14, and we've used
But
900
that's a
in
stale number.
21.
Okay, so 14 minus.
14
900.
minus 900, so it's $13 million. And if you take that number, based on your expenses, based on your budgeted expenses, that's what it'll get you that's what it'll get you at. It was 30%, a little over 30% when we went into 21. 21 is under audit. Once it's completed, then you'll get the audit and you'll get what that new amount will be.
Okay. The firefighter positions that we're hiring, obviously this is a pivot from what was requested in the grant funding. So these are 6 entry-level firefighter positions. So is the strategy changed? What's going on with that?
No, so we will promote 3 district chief positions because the fire chief in his budget presentation wanted 3 district chiefs and then 3 firefighters. So once those 3 district chiefs are promoted, that leaves 6 firefighter positions to be filled.
Are those firefighter paramedics or just firefighter positions?
The paramedic pay is in here as well. So if we can get paramedics, then we'll get all of them as paramedics. The paramedic pay is in here in this budget amendment as well.
And then the exhaust system, obviously it's double in terms of expenditure, but the value is greater than what was sought before. So the value on the 250 is that much greater in value and outcome than the 150 exhaust?
Yes, that is what the chief has told me, and he's here if you want to hear him, he can give you that, because they've done their research, and he can give you that
And then,
detail. those
no, that's okay.
details.
I mean, I'll take you for your word. The 5 million, remind me what that is again. The RV and trailer park sewer conversion. I'm drawing a blank on that one.
So those RVs, the RV parks, the trailer parks that are within our utility jurisdiction of our utility area, they have package plants currently that are, one of them for sure is failing, and they've got to come off of those, they're gonna have to come off of those plants or bring them into compliance. This is a grant or an opportunity for them to come and connect some funding that gives them a 50% funding to come and connect into our sewer system and become one of our customers in our utility area and get off of those plants. It's also critical for our BMAP. It's very, very critical that, you know, we have to continue to improve our BMAP, and this is.
You should
these
have,
are
a
the
you should
areas
have a
that-
map with the 4 package plants somewhere,
They're all in that area.
yeah, all within our PFA, our,
Where's the 5 million coming from?
The 5 million is coming from a grant from.
I mean, our matching funds.
From those mobile home parks. They will pay that
Okay, so that's,
if they take advantage of the grant.
that's not ours, okay. Then another thing, the 50K for the Duke money for the Connolly House, I thought during the State of the City, there was some person that's gonna be doing all that work for us. Gifting it.
They have the construction side of it. This is the design piece. We're going out to bid for an architectural design service so that we can have one that we can use for all of our design of our projects. This is the portion for the design. We would be responsible for the design. They want to make the donation or the contribution to do the actual construction of the building.
Okay, and then 2 things that's really kind of, you know, it's good that we have the numbers. I mean, it's equally as important to understand the dollars that we didn't get from grants that we applied for. So case in point, well, not case in point, you know, we got 12 million, but we applied for X. You know, it's important to know why we didn't get the grants that we were seeking, so that way we can write better grants going forward. If it even was a byproduct of the grant writing, who knows?
You know, there weren't many, but I'll get you that number. We'll get you that number. I'll have Shakenya get that number and send it to you so that you can see which ones we did not get.
but if our
The majority of it was police and fire, but yeah, we'll get you that.
But the point being is, you know, if our success rate is 80% and we write fewer grants, I'd rather have that success percentage be 25% and we cast a wider net and we get more funds, even though our approval rate's lower because we're going out and doing things, but then eventually get that percentage up because we understand why we may have been rejected for a certain reason or what have you.
Right. We can get you that information. I'm not going to say a percentage because I don't know exactly. The majority of it was that we didn't get was police and fire. The ones you saw here was the majority. I think there's a couple grants that we didn't get, some smaller grants that we didn't get, but I'll get you that. We'll get you that percentage so you have it. But I will tell you that we've been very successful, and you'll see that in the numbers. So we'll get you the ones that we did not get.
Yeah, and then the last piece on the infrastructure, obviously with Deming's office, we had passed some resolutions several months ago seeking some federal dollars for our own local benefit, but I don't know that any of those came to fruition. So how are we kind of pivoting how we approach this with this infrastructure dollars?
We have in our 5-year plan, we have a lot of projects in our 5-year capital plan. We have water projects in our capital plan, big future water projects, as you know, in the 5-year plan, the budget. We have road projects, big road projects that are in there. So those are the ones, Commissioner, that we are going to be bringing forward to apply for those infrastructure dollars, those big water projects. Because if you look in the 5-year capital plan, there's some massive water improvement projects over the next 5-7 years. And then, as you know, Ocoee, Apopka, there's roads that need that we're going to apply for. I think, we apply for everything that we've got in those big infrastructure projects and see, how we do.
Okay. I guess the last question I have, so the fire stuff, how quickly are we going to be able to get fire and police hired? Are we having to, is there going to be a net effect in terms of overtime pay that we pay for police fire in the interim? How is that going to impact our bottom line?
You know what? The chiefs might want to speak to that for you. I know McKinley has been hiring, currently been hiring some of our vacant positions that we have. I know that Chief Wylam has a list and is getting ready to bring on some people from the list that he has for the vacancies that we currently have in fire. I think we're gonna have an easier job hiring fire than we are police. We've seen that. Our fire list is lengthy, and I think that we're gonna be able to fill the fire ones quickly. I think the police ones, as you know, we've got some vacancies currently we're trying to fill, but we have been getting applicants in the police department. And I have worked with McKinley and told him that whatever we've got to do to help encourage these positions, to get these positions, that we need to do that. So I think, all in all, we're getting applications. So I don't think we're going to have an issue in the fire area. I think police, it's taken a little bit longer, but that's something you're seeing statewide, it's not just us.
Any other questions? Anybody else? Anything else? Okay, all right.
Mayor, real quick, and I want to thank you, Mayor, and thank the City Council. It's been a trying time. There's a lot of grants, there's a lot going on, and I could not do this. We could not do this without the staff. I want to thank them one more time. I will tell you that we have, and Shakenya can testify to this, and Nicole as well. They work very, very hard. We're meeting on a regular basis, and I've been telling everybody, bring every grant. I don't care, bring it. We can all sit down as a group and all the departments. We have a meeting and all the departments come together and we together look at it and decide, is it worth applying for based on the work, the time, the money, the effort? And so we have been successful in receiving these grants. And like I said, I'll get you the percentage of what we have not received, and I think you're going to be amazed to realize that we really have worked hard and received a lot of dollars based on the hard work of the staff and the departments.
Yeah, and I'd like to echo that. Yeah, it's been a much more collaborative effort here in the last, 12 months, trying to get everybody together, because, the Parks and Recs feeds off Public Works, and they feed off of, Dr. Jackson, and so we're all working together for, the goal is, and that's to, to put all our heads together and come up with a great plan for these grants. And so, yeah, we got a lot of work to do with the infrastructure, so just trying to figure out where to look. And I've kind of, my pitch to the team has been, let's not go after, obviously we'll go after the easy $10, $20, $50,000 grants, but let's don't go after amount of work we put in for the WEWA and the $1 million. It was a lot of work, a lot of work from all of our departments. But, so as we go for these infrastructure, let's go big or go home. And so we're gonna look at each of those different line items and figure out what's out there and what we can afford. And I'm gonna tell you, I'll be brutally honest with our elected officials at the congressional level is, guys, we didn't get our fair share. Ocoee got 24 million, we got 7. You owe me. So it'll be that blunt. You owe me some big infrastructure dollars to make up for the money we should have gotten. So we'll work hard to make that happen. So thank you. With that, we'll close. We'll be back in about 12 minutes. So thank you.